I'm Evan Knappen.
And I'm Teddy Knappen.
And welcome to Gun Lawyer. So, one of the things that I've observed through my 40 plus years in the area of firearm law is how important loopholes are to our freedom. You see, loopholes are simply freedom finding a way. And loopholes have proven over and over again to be the penetrator to breaking freedom out of its imprisonment by the oppressive governments like the state of New Jersey that constantly work at oppressing our Second Amendment rights. We've seen loopholes have this effect in different areas, and I think we're going to see now even more interesting approaches as we win on the various case law challenges, and it opens the door for further challenges and things that get covered or not covered by way of various loopholes end up getting the freedoms that we desire. So let me give you some examples that have previously occurred, just to show you not necessarily New Jersey itself, but how loopholes can get freedom. For example, at one point under the National Firearms Act, there was a requirement that chief law enforcement officers have to approve applications. And if the chief law enforcement officer did not sign off on it, you could not then possess whatever you were going for under the National Firearms Act, whether it was a suppressor or machine gun or short barrel rifle, whatever it was. The forms needed this CLE sign off, and for any reason they could deny it, and there was no way to even appeal it, and you were stuck. And it got realized that if you formed what was called an NFA trust, there was no sign off on trusts. There was no CLE sign off on trusts. And that became the preferred method of acquiring NFA, because not only was there no chief law enforcement officer sign off, but also you maintained even privacy further from going by way of a trust. And 10,000 trusts later, filed with the federal government, they finally put forward Rule 41P that got rid of the requirement for having a chief law enforcement sign off at all. Whereas prior to that, they wouldn't get rid of it. But the loophole paved the way. So when it comes to NFA, they're simply given notice, but there's no requirement that they approve it. And you see again, for example, prohibitions nationally throughout various states that existed on switchblades. Switchblade knives being a knife in which the blade comes out automatically because of a button or other device in the handle of the knife. And the assisted opener was invented, where there's no button in the handle, but merely pushing the blade still opens automatically, but with no button or other device in the handle of the knife. So you could, in fact, open the knife automatically, just not without that button. And it got around the federal switchblade laws and state laws. And even now you can have an assisted opener in New Jersey, even though there's technically a prohibition on switchblades. And what we saw was many states, after these knives have become so prolific out there and commonly owned, that the switchblade laws have been repealed in the overwhelming majority of states. Now, New Jersey has not yet repealed their switchblade law, but it is on death's door, frankly, as well. And we have Second Amendment challenges, and nationally, there's so many actual automatic knives now out there due to the understanding of the loopholes to the Federal Switchblade Act as to how they could still be produced, how they could still be sold, not in states that have specific bans, but they're prolific, and that challenge is underway as well. And again, loopholes paving the way. And I think what we're looking at now is another battleground of loopholes that are going to come in very much in our fight for legalizing eventually machine guns. And as you know, we're all very excited about the New Jersey's assault firearm ban going down in flames as unconstitutional, and magazines going down as well with it, with that fantastic decision out of the Third Circuit Court of Appeals that we've discussed. And of course, that now opens the door for further challenge, and the federal Supreme Court, SCOTUS, they have granted certiorari on the issue of assault firearms under the Viramontes and Grant cases. So by next June or so, we'll have federal case law on it. I'm extremely optimistically looking forward to that decision. I think the stars have really lined up, and even New Jersey's decision is going to aid this U.S. Supreme Court in its decision. And we, in all likelihood, I mean, nothing's ever certain, but it seems to be extremely in our favor. I mean, the antis are crying about it and essentially throwing the towel in for the most part, realizing that their entire gambit of banning semi-autos is going to die, and thank God it will. But of course, that now opens up,
I will say,
including when
that,
you go ahead.
Well, I was going to say is that I think we need to take a page out of the antis and a lot of the progressive movement is that we need to push further and further. Like, don't give up the ground because now we've won the battle on the assault firearm.
Oh, we're not giving
Keep
up.
pushing
It
to
needs
that extent.
Plow forward hard. And
Yeah.
we're going to. And one of the ways that we're going to do this, I also believe, is with incremental, important fights and with loopholes on our side. Loopholes is, again, it's that freedom finding a way. And one of the most interesting loopholes out there when it comes to machine guns. Now, keep in mind, we have a separate fight going on from the big, beautiful bill that eliminated the tax on NFA items of suppressors, short barrel rifles, any other weapon, etc. Now, they did not remove the tax yet on machine guns. But in the big, beautiful lawsuit, we're challenging, and we've discussed this in other shows, the very jurisdiction of the NFA. If there's no tax, there should be no law. If we're successful there, then the machine gun ban can die federally by simply, in a reconciliation bill, removing the tax on machine gun. You don't have to even repeal machine gun law, just simply get rid of the tax. So that's what can happen, and that can avoid the filibuster in and of itself, because that can just be done in a reconciliation bill, because that's directly on taxation. But in a separate attack that we have, in a separate way of going at this, is the idea of the incrementalism that loopholes create. And one of these great loopholes that exists when it comes to machine guns is what is called forced reset triggers. And these have really come a long way. Now, FRTs, as they're known as, make it so that the trigger is reset with force so that you can very quickly fire again your shot in which a shot is still required to be pressed for each pull of the trigger, but the forcing of the reset makes it so that you can fire extremely fast, so fast that it, for all intents and purposes, duplicates the speed of fully automatic fire. But speed of fire is not the federal law. It is based upon having to pull the trigger for each shot. And in the Fifth Circuit, FRTs, in the case out of the Fifth Circuit, were found not to be machine guns, okay? They do not make semi-automatic firearms machine guns. So under federal law, you see that FRTs are very popular now in many, many states where they have evolved to where, for example, FRTs on AR-15 platforms are now created in what are called three-position safety FRTs. The three-position safety, for those of you familiar with how an AR-15 works, the safety on ARs will rotate to three positions. You have the fire, and then you have safe, and then you have what's called the happy switch, where on the complete roll around, it will go full auto. Well, they now have FRTs that in the third position will put the AR in a forced reset trigger position, where you can then fire at that very rapid rate of fire, essentially making it indistinguishable from fully automatic fire in effect, but mechanically the trigger is in fact being pulled technically for each shot. And these FRTs have developed to where they're extremely reliable, and it's quite an amazing innovation so that you can have an AR-15 that essentially functions like a fully automatic AR-15, but it's not fully automatic, and utilizes the three position that an M16 would in fact use, or an M4 that's fully auto type AR would use, but it doesn't technically fire fully automatic because each shot is being pulled for every shot being fired, even though it's done by way of this forced reset. So the interesting question is, are forced reset triggers legal in New Jersey? Let's explore that question right now. When you look at New Jersey's ban on machine guns, New Jersey prohibits machine guns under NJS 2C39(5), specifically under subsection A, which says any person who knowingly has in his possession a machine gun or any instrument or device adaptable for use as a machine gun without being licensed to do so as provided under 58(5), which is the machine gun license, is guilty of a crime of the second degree. Now, that 58(5) license actually is licensed to carry and possess machine guns and assault firearms. Oh, wait a minute. If the assault firearm law is unconstitutional and the license for an assault firearm is the same license for a machine gun, oh my, look what door has just opened in New Jersey when it comes to getting a machine gun assault firearm license. Okay, there's a path to be taken there, but that's a discussion for another day. Let's stay focused on FRTs. The machine gun is defined in New Jersey under NJS 2C39(1), and under the 39(1) definition of machine gun, it says any firearm, mechanism, or instrument not requiring that the trigger be pressed for each shot and having a reservoir, belt, or other means for storing ammunition which can be loaded into the fire mechanism or instrument and fired therefrom. A machine gun shall also include without limitation any firearm with a trigger crank attached. Okay, well, pressed for each shot. Well, guess what? With a forced reset trigger, you are pressing the trigger for each shot. Now, before you get too excited about that, New Jersey, of course, has taken a position, which we'll discuss in a moment, about how they're viewing that definition. However, the fight is on. The fight is on. But let's continue. First of all, is an FRT a trigger crank? Well, trigger crank is defined under section FF of 39.1, and it says, a trigger crank means any device or instrument attached to a firearm that repeatedly activates the trigger of a firearm through the use of a lever or other part that is turned in a circular motion. And it does not include any weapon initially designed or manufactured through the use of a crank or lever. So Gatling guns are legal in New Jersey because they're designed from the beginning with a crank. But a crank that you attach to a semi-automatic firearm is specifically banned and placed within the machine gun definition. But an FRT is not a crank. What else does Jersey prohibit? It prohibits a bump stock. What's a bump stock? Well, that's a device or instrument for a firearm that increases the rate of fire achievable with the firearm by using energy from the recoil of a firearm to generate a reciprocating action that facilitates repeated activation of the trigger. And as you know, bump stocks are stocks, and they utilize the recoil in that way. A forced reset trigger isn't working in that mechanism either, and that can be demonstrated as well. So, cranks or bump stocks themselves, mere possession of them, are prohibited under 39.3 of NJS, the subsection L technically. You have separate prohibitions on those items. And furthermore, the law states that a conviction for possessing them doesn't merge with a conviction for possession of an assault firearm. However, possession of an assault firearm is unconstitutionally going to go down the tubes, as we know from that great decision out of the Third Circuit Court of Appeal. So we're simply dealing with cranks and bump stocks as standalone prohibited items, but not assault firearms. But the question becomes, does New Jersey still ban forced reset triggers? And interestingly, when AI is asked about this, when AI is questioned, I, for fun, thought I'd ask AI about it. And what AI says, particularly Gemini, if you're interested, it says the state prohibits them by treating them as machine guns and machine gun conversions under New Jersey statutes 39.1 and 39.5. And then it goes to cite New Jersey's machine gun classification and statutory provisions and enforcement position. Okay, let's look at each one. Machine gun classification. New Jersey law enforcement and the Attorney General's office classify FRTs as illegal machine gun conversion devices because they enable semi-automatic weapons to fire multiple rounds continuously with a single function of the trigger. Okay, guess what? We have a fight on our hands with that. Okay, that is their position. Keep that in mind. If you're caught with one in Jersey, the state will make that claim. However, as you can see from the actual definition, we have excellent grounds for arguing that they are wrong. We don't have case law establishing it yet, but loopholes help find the way. Statutory provisions. They're claiming that 39.5 prohibits possession of a machine gun or any device that converts a firearm to a machine gun Well, we just determined that it's about pressing a trigger, and the trigger still is pressed with an FRT. So that part of AI seems to be no good. So I brought that up in my continuing conversation with AI. And AI responded, you point out, which I am pointing out, that a central distinction that gun rights advocate and federal courts have leveraged to argue FRTs are not machine guns under the Federal National Firearms Act. A machine gun is defined as a weapon that fires automatically by a single function of the trigger. Because an FRT physically resets and forces the shooter to apply distinct pressure for each shot, federal courts like the Fifth Circuit have ruled FRTs require a separate trigger function per round and thus fall outside the federal definition. However, New Jersey law applies a different statutory standard and circumvents the single function trigger loophole. Really? I thought it just said distinct pressure for each shot. What the hell is AI even talking about? Well, they're claiming that New Jersey has different statutory language. They're saying machine gun means any firing mechanism not requiring that the trigger be pressed for each shot. AI makes that bold. Yet we know that it does. So where are they coming from with this? Well, they're giving a legal interpretation that the state's legal argument tries to distinguish between pressed and pulled. The state's position is that the New Jersey Attorney General and state prosecutors argue that with an FRT, the shooter applies one continuous undivided downward pressure with their finger because the firearm's internal recoil energy forcibly resets the trigger against the finger. The shooter does not deliberately release and consciously press the trigger again for each shot. However, they're saying, and again, it says conclusion, therefore, the state views continuous rearward pressure of a single finger squeeze as a single continuous act, meaning the shooter is not actively pressing the trigger for each shot, even though what's happening is what? The trigger's being pressed for each shot. Ha! Battleground. Right there, my friends. Battleground. Not determined yet. I don't think you want to be the test case, but the fight is there to be had. Aggressive multi-state litigation. New Jersey actively defends this strict interpretation, and yes, they will. The state led a coalition of 16 states urging that the Fifth Circuit reverse federal rollbacks on FRT bans, explicitly stating that FRTs are new, but mechanical principles which they operate are not. And they say the state maintains FRTs are fundamentally designed to evade automatic weapon restrictions and fall square within the state's sweeping definition of rapid fire modifications. Well, you're right. They do evade it. They evade it by following what the law requires and finding the loophole that finds the freedom. The argument is there. Then in my questioning of AI, it said, you said, does New Jersey ban FRTs? And if so, how? They say yes. New Jersey bans FTRs. The state's prohibited them by treating them as machine guns. And we've gone through, again, in this loophole of a loop, how and why. Then AI puts forward, well, Senate Bill 2097 specifically bans binary triggers as well. Well, guess what? That didn't pass. But they claim that binary triggers falls under the same legal arguments because you're releasing, not pressing. You can see the battle. What makes this so fascinating, my friends, is that this is now going to become a hotter topic for Jersey. As we see the death of the 36-year-old assault firearm ban and semi-automatics not being treated in any different way, we then see these fronts, these battle fronts opening up for challenging New Jersey's machine gun definition, which can occur through their still existing licensing law and can occur through the battle of the loopholes under FRTs and binary triggers. We are seeing glorious opportunities before us to destroy New Jersey's gun rights oppression. And that is the power of loopholes.
One of
Let
the
me
things
also, go ahead, what, Teddy?
what I was going to say is what's going to come next is once basically we achieved it where machine guns are legalized and we've basically knocked all their laws out. This goes back to what the Democrat Socialists put out on the end. They're gonna go for trying to abolish the Second Amendment, and
That's right.
but that's the whole idea of the whole argument of how we won on with dealing with the assault weapon ban was the common use. So I think just continuing to flood the market and to make sure guns outpace the population is the only way we're going to ever protect the rights, is just manufacturing and
Well,
outpacing them.
The more commonly owned, the better. Hey, I want to tell you about our good friends at We Shoot. They have something really cool. They have the civilian shoot house training, and that will be taking place on Friday, August 14th, 8 a.m. to noon. This is something new at We Shoot. This is not a beginner class. This is where training becomes real. We Shoot civilian shoot house training is built for people who understand one thing, that real situations don't happen standing still on a lane. You'll learn how to move through your home, how to clear rooms, how to make decisions under pressure the right way. What you'll learn in the civilian shoot house training is room clearing fundamentals, shooting while moving, target identification under stress, proper use of light and positioning, operating solo or as a team. Now, this is the kind of training that helps you protect your family and avoid tragic, life-changing mistakes. This training is ideal for homeowners and parents, houses of worship, security teams, armed guards, civilian groups, anyone serious about real world defense. And you'll be training with the real deal. You'll be training with Jim Weinberg, who's got 30 years of law enforcement experience with SWAT, USERT. Todd Friedman, retired detective lieutenant, special operations. He's led 500 tactical entries, over 500. Scott Benito, 25-year veteran, former lieutenant, tactical team leader. Ryan Benito, Army combat veteran, 173rd Airborne, CQB instructor, master breacher. And Andy Tack, retired captain, firearm instructor, City SRT team member, instructor, police academy instructor, and municipal counterterrorism coordinator. This is the kind of quality training you will receive from We Shoot in their shoot house training. These are instructors who have done it in real life, and they will teach you how to do it right. Listen, folks, the bottom line, shooting is one skill, moving safely through your home is another. If you're serious about protecting what matters, this is your next step. Keep in mind, spots are limited. Secure yours now. Go to WeShootUSA.com. Check out their fantastic website. It's the greatest range. Teddy and I shoot there. We love it. It's where we get our trainings, where we get our certifications, and you can too. Whether you're a beginner or advanced, We Shoot is a place for you. Conveniently located in Lakewood, conveniently right off the Parkway, easy to get to, a great resource. Take advantage of this resource at WeShootUSA.com. That's the range you need to go to in New Jersey. And let me also tell you about New Jersey Gun Law. That's my book. It's the Bible of New Jersey gun law. Everybody needs a copy. Get your copy at evannappin.com. It is a question and answer gold mine to fill you in and make it so you don't become a GoFu. You want to avoid that, you need the book. That'll help you do it. Hey, Teddy, what do you have for us in press checks?
Well, as you know, press checks are always free, and we always like to check out our friends at AmmoLand, and they point out something that's again very scary. If you've seen in the news, all the big talk is about flock cameras. Specifically, there's a bill aiming to stop.
What is a
the,
flock camera, Teddy? What is
It
it?
is it is basically a highly advanced surveillance system that is used that tracks, uses facial recognition, biometric identifications, and any other like it uses high level technology of capturing, analyzing, retaining.
So, what are these
images
cameras
of
put all
person.
over the place?
So they're looking to right now. The network has surpassed 100,000 cameras, are operating more than 5,000
100,000
communities.
cameras doing facial recognition, tracking, surveillance. Is this like Big Brother happening?
It is. It is. And unfortunately, the Big Brother is very retarded, as there have been many issues, including the fact that they've had the network be exposed where you can get live feeds of the flock cameras. It's amazing what you can find at a bunch of cameras pointed at, schools, playgrounds. That's not going to be abused. And also, it makes mistakes and falsely
And people are
reports
hacking into
people.
them, aren't they?
Repeatedly, yes, and they've had data
Well, wait a
breaches.
minute. If you're not doing anything wrong, what do you have to worry about?
Well, and it was pointed out in the article that this is important for the Second Amendment because it's tracking license plates, where it's logging in, arriving, and departing gun stores and gun shows and shooting ranges.
Oh,
So
New
let's just
Jersey would
say-
never do that. Oh, wait, they did. They did it at gun shows, even in out-of-state gun shows. Oh, my.
Correct.
Oh, my. And
And-
that's without
and-
the aid of flock cameras.
Correct, and apply that now to not only building profiles where they're going to determine, oh, this person's a gun owner, so that obviously means they're going to make the calculation, think you're carrying. So they're going to wait until a moment when you're in maybe a sensitive place and try to bust you then, and doing this data
Well, you're
tracking.
not supposed to be in a sensitive place, Daddy.
Yeah, I know. It's almost like things happen. Sometimes.
And not only that, they use Wi-Fi to determine if you have a gun.
Correct. And then marry this with AI with a new thing called Signal Trace. It's comes by the Leonardo USA Cybersecurity Company. So this company, they use the Signal Trace. It's a software system for identifying groups of consumers using multiple of their electronic devices. So say, Dad, you have a smartwatch and a phone, or even your car, and all of that is accessible through the Signal Trace, where they develop large scale profiles of individuals that they are tracking on these cameras. Now they understand, oh, this person's a gun owner, this person carries, this person's going to have a whatever
Wait a minute.
carry package.
I got a question, Daddy. I see, but is there any, like, countries that might be, like, authoritarian and really mean to their people that might be using technology like this? There isn't any countries doing that now, is there?
China, Russia,
China
UK,
and Russia.
UK,
Oh,
UK.
I see. And the UK, of course, of course.
These are various nations for that they're going to abuse it. And by the way, they've come out and said they're not talking about combining the two systems of Signal Trace. There's no official contract, but let's be real. The fact remains AI.
Anything
along
government
with
can
the fact-
abuse, they will abuse. That's an iron law of government abuse. Who's kidding who?
Yeah.
And by the way, if you're not doing anything wrong, you're not doing anything wrong till somebody decides that what you're doing is wrong. And now it's wrong in their book. And
I'll give you
go
a
ahead,
worse
give me an
one.
example. No,
Well,
okay.
they bought Aerodome, which is a drone package. So now, no longer it's going to be a mobile flock camera, calling it the Alpha drone.
Oh, wow. Everywhere, flying overhead on anywhere, everywhere, constant surveillance. That's just lovely, lovely.
Yes.
Who wants
so-
to live like that?
Yeah, so Big Brother is out there, and I'm pretty sure there's a few videos on how to do drone hunting. So that's going to, yeah, when Amazon was doing that, where it was skeet shooting with prizes.
Well,
But it,
this is, there's a federal bill, I understand, to try to ban these.
correct. It was put out, the Protection Against Mass Surveillance Act.
Well, damn, we need that bill.
Yeah, no kidding. As
It'll be a
right
federal
now,
prohibition on this nonsense.
all federal agencies will be prohibited from using automated surveillance system to identify, track, or record individuals.
Oh, I'm sure the state of New Jersey will happily do it, though. It sounds right up their line.
Yeah, and
But
this is
at
very,
least we can get the feds to maybe even make it preemptive. It should be a federal law that preempts the area so that's nationwide and preemptive. So you kill it for the whole country.
Yeah, and this is where, again, this is the marrying of what will come, because we can have all these fights and win and get all the loopholes, but this combined with AI of what they're going to do, they will just track and they know how many guns without even having to do the
It's
registry.
scary. It's
That
scary
they won't-
stuff.
They won't even need to do the paperwork even. It'll just have
It's,
an AI. that'll tell.
technology is advancing so fast with all this. You're combining AI and drones and flock cameras and this targeting ability. We're not too far from RoboCop, and that also includes actual robots coming our way. And then you combine robots with flock and drone and AI, and you see we're entering into a sci-fi horror show here.
Yeah,
They better get the federal laws on this stuff, man. It's spooky. It's scary. It is not how I grew up. I'll tell you that. It's bad news. Bad news. Well, I want to tell you about this week's GoFu, which is, of course, gun owner F-ups. It's important we always study GoFus. You don't want to become a GoFu. GoFus are expensive lessons. Others have learned that you get to learn for free so you don't repeat them. And let me tell you, these are actual cases and clients and real scenarios. And I'll tell you something I've seen a lot of lately. Folks that are doing their own expungements. If you have a record that needs to be cleared, I absolutely do not advise doing it yourself. You need a professional to get your expungement done right. There's a lot of nuances to getting expungements done right. And when they are done wrong, it is a nightmare. It is a nightmare to fix it, and it creates escalating problems. Let me give you an example. You get an expungement and you don't clear all your records and you think you have. Next thing you know, you're jammed up on your gun application for lying on the form, and you're looking at 5 years in state's prison for lying on the form because you wrote no when you should have wrote yes because you thought you were expunged and you weren't. You get an expungement. You actually get everything cleared, but you didn't realize that you had to wait for the state police to also scrub the record. No one told you that. You thought it got done. The database comes up that you have a record that you don't have. You've said no. Now the entire system comes down on you for lying, license denying, gun forfeiture revocation. You got to fight it all off. Again, giant problem. Even if you get the expungement, you don't realize the record hasn't been scrubbed. Your local issuing authority recognizes the expungement, grants you your license or permit. You then go to the dealer to buy, but get denied on the next check because the database still has it in it. And now the feds are on your ass, and the entire escalation comes down on you for that. We see these scenarios over and over again. If you or anybody you know needs an expungement, get it done professionally. There's too many pitfalls, problems, and nuances in doing it properly and correctly. Believe me, we see that downside. Don't be a GoFu. This is Evan Nappen and Teddy Nappen reminding you that gun laws don't protect honest citizens from criminals. They protect criminals from honest citizens.
Gun Lawyer is a Counterthink media production. The music used in this broadcast was managed by Cosmo Music, New York, New York. Reach us by emailing evan@gun.lawyer. The information and opinions in this broadcast do not constitute legal advice. Consult